Hey everybody, my name is Eric Huang, and today we'll be taking a look at how to read music. And we'll be taking a look with an example called Twinkle Twinkle Little Star by Mozart, and it's a pretty familiar tune for most people. The first thing to look at when we're reading music is to look at the clef. And what the clef does is it indicates what range in terms of pitch we're going to be playing in. And so there are two main ones, which you can see in the music here, which is treble and bass. Treble looks like a G kind of, and bass kind of looks like a backwards C with two dots. So the first thing to look at when we're trying to read music is the clef. And once we've identified the clef, we also need to look at the note that we're trying to read. And so in this example, these are all going to be quarter notes, which means they land right on the beat. Here we're going to look at different types of rhythms we can find each note in. There is a whole note which lasts for 4 beats, a half note for 2, a quarter for 1, an eighth note for half a beat, and a 16th note for a fourth of a beat. And this is what they will look like in your music. So once we've identified both the rhythm and the clef that we're in, we can start looking at the pitch and the note we're actually going to play. So the first thing we look at is we're going to be looking at treble clef. In treble clef, here are the notes, different notes, and they're going to be listed out. And the way we read the notes is we look at these lines and where the note falls in the line. So as you can see, this note would be an E, and they go up all the way from A to G, and it repeats over and over again. So we could see that every time it goes up in a space, you could see that the pitch also goes up by a note. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so forth. This same pattern can be recognized in the bass clef. However, the first note here is actually a C, and it's going to be different from the treble clef. This is because they're in different ranges of pitches, so they're going to be different notes. So for the piano players, this will be your middle C, and this is one of the most important notes, and it's easier if you use this note for reference for all the other notes, so you can tell where you're supposed to be playing. So anyways, as you go up by one note, one note, one note, and where your note lands in the space will determine that. And so when we're actually reading music, the easiest way for people to read and the quickest is to actually read the spaces in between the notes. That way you could uh, go way faster because you don't have to register where in the lines it is. You can just tell by relativity how far away the note is. So in this example, we have the first note being a G. And as you can see, it's a G for the treble clef, same for the piano, and same for the bass. These are all Gs. Now, the second part we're going to need to recognize while reading music is to look at the key signature. The key signature basically tells us which accidentals that we're going to have, and it's going to be replicated throughout the entire piece of music. The clef and the key signature will be at the start of every single line. So as you can see, there's a sharp here, and I'll give you guys a minute and let you figure out which note is being raised up a half step. So hopefully we should have found that the note being raised up a half step is F. So it will be actually playing F sharp. And so an example in the music here would be this chord here. The F right here is actually going to be sharped. And what the key signature is basically telling you is, unless stated otherwise through an accidental sign, every F in this piece is going to be sharp. So instead of playing F, you would play F sharp here in this chord. So just for a reference, our key signature is going to be G major, which means just only F is sharp, and everything else will be natural. So when we're going back to trying to read this music, we're going to take a look at just the first bar and just going to be the top line. So try to identify the two notes here and tell me the rhythm and the pitch for these notes. Alright, so if we look over here, we can find that the first note is a G. It is indeed a quarter note. If we look at our reference here, we can see that it is a quarter note. The second note here we should have found to be a D, and you can see that it is a D here. It is indeed also a quarter note, so we will play that for one beat. Now, let's take a look at some of our bass clef examples. Let's look at our lowest line, the third line here. Try to identify these four notes and tell me the rhythm for them too as well. Okay, so hopefully you should have found that the first note was also a G, this note was a B, this note is a B, and this note is a D, and they are all quarter notes. And then we could take a look at the next line here. Tell me the notes for these three, as well as their rhythm. Okay, so the first note here is going to be a E, and it is repeated twice. These are both quarter notes. The third note is going to be a D, as we saw earlier, except this time it is going to be a half note, which means you hold it for 2 beats instead of 1. Hopefully that was enough practice, just trying to get used to seeing a note and then interpreting it in your mind. This is something that all musicians need to work on, and people are always working on getting better at reading it, and even more complicated pieces than this. But hopefully this is going to be a good start for you to actually get out there and start deciphering some of the music that's written and being able to play it. Anyways, thank you for watching this video, and hopefully this was helpful and you learned a little bit on how to read music.